Trauma. Even the word feels heavy, doesn't it? It's one of those terms that instantly evokes a pause, a memory, a face, maybe even a scar we don't like to touch. Trauma has a way of following us long after the event. It doesn't politely knock and leave. It lingers. It creeps into our relationships, our sleep, our sense of safety. Now here's something you might not expect me to say. Artificial intelligence, yes, the same tech that powers your Spotify recommendations and your car's navigation system, is quietly stepping into the world of healing trauma. I know it sounds strange at first. Machines in trauma recovery? That feels almost contradictory. But here's the twist. AI isn't showing up as some robotic therapist replacing human compassion. It's showing up as a companion, a tool, even an amplifier of what therapy already does best. And honestly, the more you look at it, the more you realize it's not as cold or mechanical as it sounds. In fact, it might be more human than we think. Before we talk AI, let's talk trauma. People often think trauma is reserved for extreme events, war, accidents, natural disasters. And sure, those are big ones. But trauma can also mean growing up in an unpredictable household, surviving emotional neglect, experiencing racism, or living under chronic stress. It's the invisible weight we carry. The tricky part? Trauma changes the body and the brain. Neuroscience shows that traumatic memory doesn't sit neatly in the storytelling part of the brain. It gets stuck in the amygdala, the fight or flight system. That's why people with PTSD can feel like the event is happening right now instead of in the past. So healing trauma isn't just about talking it out. It's about rewiring patterns, calming the nervous system, and building safety again. That's hard work, and access to therapy is limited. Waitlists are long. Stigma is still real. And that's where AI starts to look less like a gimmick and more like a practical tool. Let me give you a concrete example. Apps like Wysa and Woebot, both backed by clinical research, use AI to simulate conversational therapy. They're built on cognitive behavioral therapy principles, guiding users to challenge negative thoughts, practice mindfulness, and manage emotional spirals. Then there's Replika, which isn't marketed as therapy but as an AI friend. People use it to process emotions, practice social interactions, or just talk. For trauma survivors who feel isolated or judged, even a digital friend can become a bridge back to human connection. And here's the kicker. These tools are available at 2 a.m. when panic hits hardest. They don't sigh. They don't cancel. They don't judge. They just respond. Sometimes that's all a person needs, to not feel alone in the middle of the night. Sure, an AI chatbot won't replace deep therapeutic work, but it offers what I'd call emotional first aid, like a bandage before the surgery. It stabilizes. It grounds. And that's often the first step in healing. AI isn't just giving pep talks. It's analyzing data in ways humans simply can't. Voice analysis. Some experimental AI systems can detect stress and trauma by analyzing tone, pitch, and speech rhythm. Your voice carries hidden signals your conscious mind doesn't notice. Imagine your smartwatch picking up on a spike in stress before you realize you're spiraling. Text patterns. Studies have shown that AI can identify depressive or trauma-related language weeks before a person gets a diagnosis. It's like an emotional early warning system. Biometric feedback. Combine AI with wearables, Fitbits, Apple Watches, Oura Rings, and you've got real-time monitoring of heart rate variability, sleep cycles, and even micro-sweats, all of which can flag trauma-related stress responses. One striking case? Veterans using AI-powered journaling platforms. The AI flagged subtle changes in word choice and tone that hinted at worsening PTSD symptoms. Weeks before the vets themselves noticed, that allowed therapists to step in earlier. That's not sci-fi. That's happening now. Of course, it's not all rosy. Let's be real. Sharing your deepest pain with an app raises questions. First problem, privacy. Where does all that data go? Who sees it? Can it be hacked? Mental health data is some of the most sensitive information out there, and once trust is broken, it's nearly impossible to rebuild. Second, bias. AI models are trained on datasets, and datasets often reflect social blind spots. Trauma expressed in one culture might look very different from another. If the AI hasn't learned that variation, it might miss the signs, or worse, misinterpret them. Third, the human touch. Healing trauma isn't just about words, it's about connection, the warmth of a human voice, the safe presence of someone breathing alongside you. AI can't replicate that. Not yet, anyway. But here's a strange twist. Some people actually find comfort in AI because it's not human. Survivors who carry shame sometimes prefer talking to a machine because there's no risk of judgment, no awkward silence, no fear of being misunderstood. The very thing critics call a limitation, AI's lack of humanity, can sometimes be its strength. So maybe the point isn't to pit humans against AI. Maybe the real magic happens when they work together. Picture this. A therapist reviews a patient's AI chat logs and sees patterns they would have otherwise missed, like spikes in negative thinking after certain events, or microshifts in tone that suggest worsening depression. That insight makes therapy sharper, faster, and more effective. Or consider VR therapy. With AI guiding the environment, trauma survivors can safely re-experience difficult memories. Soldiers with PTSD, for example, can be gradually exposed to combat scenarios in VR. But this time it's controlled, safe, and guided by a therapist. Research shows this helps rewire traumatic memory so it no longer hijacks the nervous system. Even small things matter. AI transcription tools free therapists from frantic note-taking, so they can actually look patients in the eye and listen. It's not AI versus therapist, it's AI with therapist. And that combo could change the game. Here's something we don't talk about enough. Trauma doesn't look the same everywhere. In some cultures, trauma is described through physical pain, headaches, stomach issues, fatigue. In others, it's hidden in silence or expressed in poetry and metaphors. Western-trained therapists sometimes miss those cues, but AI, trained on diverse global data, might actually catch them better. And think about accessibility. In remote villages, refugee camps, or war zones, therapists are scarce. But smartphones? They're everywhere. AI-powered tools could be the emotional first responders in places where human therapists simply can't be. It's not perfect. But imagine being a refugee mother in a camp with no access to mental health care. If an app can help you sleep a little better, help your child calm down after nightmares, or give you breathing exercises, that's not trivial. That's survival. Here's a fun side note. Trauma therapy isn't always about talking. Sometimes it's about expression, art, music, storytelling. And guess what? AI is making inroads there too. AI tools that generate soothing soundscapes tailored to your stress levels. AI-guided journaling prompts that adapt based on your emotional state. Even AI-generated visual art that people use in art therapy sessions to express feelings they can't put into words. You could argue it's not real art because it's machine-made. But if it helps someone externalize their pain, if it gives shape to feelings they've buried, then it's doing its job. Of course, this all comes with a giant handle with care label. What happens if governments start using trauma detection AI for surveillance? What if employers misuse it, tracking workers' mental states? That's not far-fetched. AI doesn't just heal. It can also be weaponized if the wrong people get their hands on it. That's why transparency, ethics, and regulation matter here. Trauma survivors are among the most vulnerable populations. Exploiting their data or trust would be not just a breach of privacy, it would be a second wound. So here's where we land. AI in trauma care isn't about replacing human hearts. It's about amplifying what's possible. It's about extending support to people who would otherwise go without. It's about stabilizing, guiding, sometimes even holding space when no one else can. But it also raises tough questions. Would you trust an AI with your deepest scars? Could you open up to a machine in ways you can't to another human? Some say yes, some say no. Maybe the real answer lies somewhere in between. AI isn't a therapist, but it's a tool. And in the messy, non-linear journey of healing, sometimes tools are exactly what keep us moving forward. Trauma has been with humanity since the beginning. And maybe, just maybe, for the first time in history, technology can help us carry it differently.